for distributed energy for areas that aren't connected to larger grids. You're right that our interagency partners often are a source of deal flow or technical expertise. That's certainly something that we rely on, and this is an area that we would definitely like to advance further. Providing reliable access to sustainable electricity is a key to development and is in our strategic interest.
Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Young. Senator Shaheen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Mr. Nathan, for being here. And I want to begin by recognizing DFC's finalizing the commitment for up to $300 million in the investment fund for the 3Cs initiative. I think that is a very important investment, and especially given Ukraine recently being granted a partner nation to the investment initiative. I hope you will consider this as another way that we can support what's happening in Ukraine. Like most of us on this committee, I was very disappointed that when we passed the continuing resolution on Saturday that it didn't fund Ukraine in the way that we had talked about and believe it should be. And I wonder, for the benefit of those people who say, you know, why are we supporting Ukraine? Would you talk about the interconnection between our economy here and what's happening in Ukraine, and why our investments there have some real benefit for the American public and the businesses in the U.S.?
Well, first I'd say, Senator, I think it's the right thing to do. I've been to Ukraine 3 times in the last year. Our predecessor agency had $800 million worth of exposure there through a variety of different investments, and we've continued to expand that portfolio to support the private sector in Ukraine. That's support for small business, that's in the agricultural space, that's healthcare, a thriving private sector in Ukraine, which is possible at the moment, will help them be in the position for reconstruction and recovery as opposed to being further damaged. We're committed to keeping people employed, having them pay taxes, support the war effort, and support the government. So we're trying through many different possible projects to do that, and we're starting to have a great deal of success. But in a broader way, you know, particularly in the agricultural space and food security, Ukraine plays such an important role in the Middle East, North Africa, across the African continent, the World Food Program as the biggest source of grain still to the World Food Program. It's in our interest to not have people starving around the world. It's also the right thing to do. And anything we can do to support Ukraine in that regard, I think, is worthwhile.
Thank you. I would also argue it's in our national security interest not to have a Vladimir Putin who feels free to go into any country that he likes and take it, and the message that that sends to China and to Iran and North Korea is very important. I understand before I got here that you testified that about 1% of the employees of DFC are outside of the United States. Is that correct? I was very happy to see that your request, which the Appropriations Subcommittee is fully funded, includes funding for 10 DFC country offices. I certainly support that. I think it's hard for us to figure out what the needs are if we don't have people there on the ground. And I certainly share Senator Murphy's concern about the missed opportunity in the Balkans. Right now we have several countries in the Balkans that are on the verge of outright conflict, Serbia and Kosovo and Bosnia. We also have several countries there that have made tremendous progress, as have those countries in some areas, on democracy building Montenegro and North Macedonia are members of NATO. Those are places that we want to invest because we don't want Southern Europe to explode in the same way that we're seeing the land war in Ukraine. So can you talk about what criteria you're looking at and to what extent you might be considering offices someplace in the Western Balkans?
Yeah, so as part of our strategic review of and our planning for how to deploy offices, we looked at by region where we're likely to locate offices that can be useful to a region from a connectivity point of view, to avoid, the difficulty of travel that comes up. We looked at where we're likely to get the most leverage from having a person on the ground for business development and filling our pipeline of potential deals.
And so are you looking at anywhere in the Western Balkans?
Yeah, so we would consider Europe as part of our plan, whether it would be in Central Europe and Ukraine or in the Balkans is still up in the air. One of the things about Europe is that it's easier for our people to get there from Washington, as opposed to if you're looking at certain places in West Africa or in South Asia.
You haven't been to Georgia recently, have you?
Well, I was there actually a year ago. I was in Tbilisi.
You think it's easy to get there?
Well, yeah, but you should try to get to Freetown, Sierra Leone. I mean, none of it is easy. I will say in Georgia, I was delighted to visit there because DFC has a 30-year history of investing there, and obviously with our predecessor. And from Washington, D.C., we've done over 60 deals in Georgia over that history. So.
Yeah, I would hope that Georgia would be one of the places you're also considering for an office.
Yeah.
Because of its strategic location in between Europe and Central Asia. And I know I'm out of time, Mr. Chairman, but let me just also weigh in and say that I certainly support the equity scoring fix
Thank you.
that has been raised and hope that that can get done. Thank you.
Well, I noticed Senator Van Hollen appreciated that you took the extra 2 minutes so that he could make it to the